go!
Let's go.
Sanderson!
What a defensive dude!
Your two best players!
Let's go!
I'm gonna.
I just like that part.
I know
First
that
from the
clip.
beginning.
That'll never get old. Let's go. We're back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network, breaking down Michigan winning the national championship. Yes, I said that. This is not a drill. Houston, we have a problem.
Oof.
Michigan, they're the national champions, and it honestly it is. It was an impressive performance. We'll get into it all. I know we previewed a lot of it last week and yesterday, and we had a consistent opinion about how we thought this would play out, okay? And people would say to you and to me, Sam, Michigan has yet to see an offense like this. And what would me and you always say back? Washington has yet to see a defense like this. And it played out that way. Jesse Minter, hell of a job from him. But I want to start with you, Sam Flannel. It is your day. What are some of your takeaways from yesterday's win over the Huskies?
All right, so I mentioned this on one of the previews. I think it was actually at Feldman yesterday that there were 4 really key things that they needed to do, Michigan, in order to win the game. And for the most part, all of those things happened. And in some cases, it was an even more dominant margin than you even think. So one of the first thing that I mentioned was that they needed to at least play even on special teams. No special teams blunders, no bad punting, no muff punts, no missed field goals, no missed extra points, no bad snaps, any of that stuff. And that is exactly what Michigan did. They didn't muff any punts, mostly because for a lot of the part of the game, they weren't catching them, but still, they didn't muff any punts. They muffed 2 against Alabama. They lost one of them, and the other one almost cost them the game. But against Washington, they played it pretty even in terms of special teams play. Tommy Doman, their punter, who had a rough day against Alabama. Against Washington, he punts 5 times for an average of 46.8 yards and pins Alabama inside the 20 twice, which was big. And James Turner, their field goal kicker, who had missed a field goal against Washington, although it was more on the long snapper, and then had one of his extra points. He wasn't even able to attempt it because of a bad snap. Against Washington, 2 of 2 field goals, 4 of 4 extra points. So the special teams at least played Washington's even, and that's really all you need to do. You don't need to win games on special teams, but you can't lose them. Another thing that I said that Michigan needed to do, and they did this in a more dominating fashion than I even expected. You need to run the football and stop the run. And oh, by the way, I got to give my man JB Smoove some credit, because coming into this game, JB, you were the one that said Donovan Edwards was an X factor. I could see him making a couple of plays. And boy, did he ever.
It's a hell of a
Donovan
call.
Edwards, man, he did not have a good year, but he persevered. He believed. He didn't transfer. He didn't quit. He didn't pout. And his reward was having one of the best games of his life on the biggest stage. He didn't have but one 40-plus yard touchdown run. He had 2. And it basically got the scoring off for Michigan. It gave Michigan that fast start that they needed, that they were really able to hang on to as the whole duration of the game went. He rushed for over 100 yards, had a couple of touchdowns, an absolutely huge game. But also, when it comes to the Michigan running game, you can't say enough about one, Mr. Blake Corum, probably my second favorite Michigan player of all time after Aiden Hutchinson. Although Blake Corum is climbing up the list, he might have to go straight up to number 1. But I've told you before, Blake Corum can officially be counted, and I know some people are going to disagree, but I don't care. He is the greatest running back in Michigan football history. I know that he's ran behind a great offensive line and all of that, and I know that he doesn't have all of the records, but this season had another 1,000-yard season and 27 rushing touchdowns, including a $134 and 2 touchdowns last night in Michigan's big win, including the touchdown that put him up by 14 and then the touchdown that put him up by 21. Blake Corum is an absolute Michigan legend. He should have a statue built of him at some point outside of the big house. That is how important he has been. He is the embodiment of the saying, those who stay will be champions. And nobody deserves to be a champion more than Blake Corum. Just absolutely unbelievable the career that he has had. And I can't say enough good things about him. And oh, by the way, on the day, when you talk about running the football and stopping the run, Michigan outrushed Washington 303-46. Is that good?
Geez.
And their yards per carry margin was 8 to 2.3. If you would have told me that Michigan would have done that, I probably would have not been able to stand up the whole rest of the day. But it actually happened, and that was absolutely unbelievable. And I know Dylan Johnson got hurt and all that, but Washington really wasn't able to run the ball. And another thing, another takeaway that thought needed to happen, which happened in a way, but not quite the way that I thought that it would. You needed to find some way to get to pressure Michael Penix, contain that passing attack at some degree, and of course let the corners do their work as well. Michigan only got 1 sack, but Michael Penix was under complete duress the whole game. And Michael Penix, I think we will all agree, anybody who watched the game, was never really comfortable in the pocket. He seemed jittery. He seemed to have happy feet. He made a lot of bad throws. And at the end of the day, Michigan held Michael Penix to 27 of 51, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. 255 yards on 51 attempts. You will take that any day of the week. And oh, by the way, shout out to the defensive backs. They held Washington's 3-headed monster at receiver to a combined 15 receptions for 157 yards and a touchdown, including Jalen Polk only having 4 for 37 and Jalen McMillan having only 6 for 33 and a touchdown. You would take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday, and all of that led to Michigan only allowing Washington's offense to score 13 points. That vaunted Washington offense, everybody was saying, you've never seen an offense like this. And we had Michigan had not seen an offense like this, but somehow, some way, Michigan managed to hold Washington to fewer points than they held Alabama. An absolutely phenomenal performance. And the fourth takeaway that came true to some extent was about J.J. McCarthy. And I'm not going to try to pretend that J.J. McCarthy was the reason they won that game or he played masterful or anything like that. But one thing that I did say is if J.J. McCarthy does not turn the football over, Michigan will win. I guarantee it. And he did not. And J.J. McCarthy, he missed some throws, although he wasn't helped out by some drops either. He did miss some throws. There were some times where I even lost a little bit of confidence in him, and I will admit that. But at the end of the day, J.J. needed to make a few plays, which he did. JJ on the second touchdown drive hit Roman Wilson for a 37-yard gain. And I get it. That was just one throw, but still, in that drive, it was a very, very big play. And then you look at a drive when they were up 20-13, 3rd and 8 from their own 9. JJ McCarthy hits a 22-yard scramble and then a 12-yard run on back-to-back plays. That Michigan didn't end up scoring on that drive, but they flipped field position. You did not want to go 3 and out and give and punt from your own end zone at that point. And JJ McCarthy's legs allowed them to not do that. And on that drive that actually put them ahead by 14, J.J. McCarthy hit that big 41-yard pass to Colston Loveland when Michigan's offense looked 100% lifeless at that point. That was a huge play. And then the next play hits a 12-yarder to Roman Wilson, and that drive is ultimately culminated in a Blake Corum touchdown run. So J.J. McCarthy didn't play perfect at all. He wasn't asked to do a whole lot because when your running game gives you 300 yards, it makes your job a lot easier. But he made the plays that he needed to make when they needed him to make them, and he played turnover-free football, and Michael Penix did not. And I get it. I'm not saying he outplayed Michael Penix. Michael Penix's job was a lot more difficult yesterday, but when J.J. McCarthy does not turn the football over and Michigan plays within themselves, there is not a team in the nation that can beat them, and they've proven it because they're national champions. Great win. They did everything that they needed to do to win that football game.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to point out is how impressive this defense has been all year.
Yes.
Credit to Jesse Minter. Credit to the personnel they have. It's the third lowest, like I said last segment, third lowest passing yards that Michael Penix has had this season. It's the worst completion percentage he's had this season and the most pass attempts. It seems like this Michigan defense, Broder, just continues to suffocate everybody. And at first it's like, hey, well, look at their schedule. Okay, well, they suffocated Alabama, and now they suffocated a legitimate, and I'll keep saying this, that's an NFL offense. NFL quarterback, NFL receivers, and some offensive linemen that are going to make the NFL as well. Yeah. Jesse Minter, if the Lions lose Aaron Glenn, go to Ann Arbor and kidnap him and bring him to Allen Park. Please and thank you.
I'm totally cool with that. But we saw the formula. If you get pressure, even if you can't get all the way to the quarterback, you get pressure on them. And then if you have an athletic enough secondary, which Michigan does with Sainer still and Will Johnson, Rod Moore, even Sad played really well last night. They were able to hang with those Washington receivers. There were a few missed throws, but that's all caused by that pressure. Jesse Minter, he made adjustments throughout the game. He changed up their defense. He dropped 7. He blitzed. He did everything you could to make a fifth-year quarterback, a 23-year-old veteran quarterback, look rattled. And that's something that Michael Penix and that Washington offense has been able to avoid all season. Even in big games, they've been the team that's been able to stay calm, cool, and collected, Michigan made them look rough.
And by the way, this comment too, Tyler B says, don't forget Ohio State. That is true. There's another one. But this Michigan team, and it goes back, and I want to get into Jim Harbaugh in a second here because I want to go to break and talk more about Jim because Jim was ecstatic last night. He made a joke that he could finally sit at the big boys table. He's got a national championship under his belt. But he is one hell of a coach. Not just a college football coach. Coach, period. NFL, college football, anywhere he's been, he just wins games. And I think the storyline with Jim Harbaugh from when he first got to Michigan till now, it's honestly poetic.